Raider Nation. Thank you for joining us on the Only Nation podcast. My name is Heidi, but you may know me as Kevlar Prom Dress or even Raider Ladybug. I'm here with Raider Homer again, and we are ready to talk some Raiders football together.
Oh, yeah. I'm always ready to talk Raider football. And on today's show, we'll be introducing some of our new segments and cover Raiders news and what's going on with our team, the Raiders. So be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the Only Nation podcast on all of your favorite social media accounts and podcast apps. We want to hear from the Only Nation on this podcast. So contact us at 904-701-8667. Follow us on Twitter at Only Nation Pod and on Instagram at Only Nation Pod. Or you can email the show at theonlynationpodcast@gmail.com.
Okay. How's your weekend been going, Homer?
It's going well. I got the Raider room ready. Got my display case going. I'd like to thank all the members of the Raider Nation out there that have supported me and my little journey, and I hope to plant some seeds along the way.
And that sounds like a great weekend. Spending the weekend planting seeds and growing the nation. Growing our family to get bigger and bigger. And actually, I was reading about a member of our family that had some news on an injury he suffered at the beginning of this last season. His name is Johnathan Abram. Yes, one of our first-round draft picks. He was injured during the very first game of the season, and he ended up on season-ending IR. Well, Vic Tafer caught up with him and asked him how he's doing. He told Vic that he is at 90% and he is excited to get back.
Yeah, we need him. We need him. Eric Harris stepped up last year, and Carl Joseph got hurt, and then we suffered a little bit. But Abram and Harris, I think, really solidified or will solidify the back end of our defense. Eric Harris had a multi-interception game versus the Chargers, so I think he is starting to understand the defense, and it showed by the end of the year, of course. So getting Johnathan Abram back will definitely make that back end much, much better.
And I really liked Harris. I know he's gotten a lot of criticisms that, he's not an NFL caliber safety and he should at the most only be used for special teams. But he kind of has that one thing that can't be measured, and that's heart. He just goes out 110% of the time, every single time. Him and Max Crosby, you just can't stop them. They are just so intense, and it is so important to them. They're rearing and ready to go.
Yeah, and as he's talking to Vic, right, he's saying that we got to get better week in and week out. That we have to stay healthy, and that was the biggest issue last year. He believes that they got a lot of talent, and he wasn't surprised at the success of the rookie class, and that goes all the way back to him being a leader, on Hard Knocks. So getting him back is more than just being in position and a hard-hitting safety. It's being that leader on the field, off the field, and being vocal, because that's maybe, communication is key on the field. So I can't wait to see him come back, especially in teaming up with Eric Harris, because I don't think we're going to re-sign Carl Joseph.
Yeah, and if we do, it's not going to be for a contract that Joseph wanted. It would just be because nobody else is giving him what he wants.
Yeah. I mean, and he had those few game-clinching interceptions before he got hurt, but it's almost too little too late. So, I'm excited to see Abram come back and see what what he can do, if he can be consistent.
Yeah, and you know who Carl Joseph's agent is, right?
Yeah, Siegel, right? That's the guy that's the agent of Amari Cooper and Khalil Mack. Yeah.
Yes. So he's one that tries to drive a hard bargain.
Well, he doesn't have any leverage with Joseph, though. He doesn't have any leverage there, especially since we have Abrams and Eric Harris stepped up, And then waiting in the wings, we still have LaMarcus Joyner. So I don't see Joseph coming back.
Yeah, I could see them trying to give him, a veteran's minimum deal or something. But, he's not going to take it.
Yeah, no, I don't think Siegel would let him because he's got that first-round tag,
Mm-hmm. And since he was a first rounder, he will get another chance somewhere else. but it just will very likely not be with the Raiders. And speaking of the rookie class, Nick Shook of Around the NFL, he looked back at the play of all the rookie classes in the AFC West, and he gave the Silver and Black the highest grade of the 4 teams that are in the division. He gave us an A- for our entire rookie class. That's pretty good. It's not perfection, but for a draft, you're never going to get absolute perfection. But an A-, that's pretty dang good. Yeah, it means that our rookies are out there making contributions and really participating.
Yeah, and we were talking about the great success that the 2019 rookie class had. The first thing that catches me or makes me worry, right, is that they've set the bar high, and so whatever happens after that, people are going to be real picky comparing the next draft to the first draft that they had together. Who knows if they're going to be as successful, because you know how the draft is. It's a lottery. If we do draft well 2 years back to back, we could be looking at a Super Bowl run, in year 3 or year 4. Seriously, because that's the depth, right? Because each year that we draft, we're also signing free agents. So no matter what, we're creating this depth, teaching players, developing players that we can eventually trade for picks. So all that's key. It's all key. It's not just the draft, but how well these players play. Yeah, the bar's been set high. So can they do it again? That's the biggest question.
And I guess we'll see. I got faith that they can, though.
Because Max Crosby, you were talking about him a little while ago. I mean, that's a steal. He's a steal in the 4th round, right? I
Right?
mean, are you going to be able to have that success again? Trayvon Mullen, right? Man, he's been playing well. He got burned, I think, the first game, and then after that, he came in and he outperformed, I thought, Worley.
Mm-hmm.
Duplicating that is going to be key. We need that linebacker that can step in and perform like that, because no word on Burfict yet, no word on Compton yet. So it looks like linebacker is definitely top of the chart, as far as free agency and draft, or new free agents coming in.
Now, talking about free agents that are coming in, there's that one rumor that just won't go away. And I think you know which one I'm talking about. That rumor that is just persistent and underlying and will not vanish is the one that Tom Brady would come over here to join the Raiders. Have your thoughts evolved on that at all? Or
Well, I thought that he just signed a 2-year extension.
no, that was last summer. It was an extension to, as far as I understand it, to kind of up his pay for the final year, but it leaves him as a free agent at the end of the year, and they cannot franchise tag him.
I mean, I don't think the Raiders would pass up on Tom Brady, just like almost any other NFL team.
Hmm.
And so the rumors are, right, that Carr, maybe going to the Bears in a trade package or whatever, right? You've seen that around.
Yeah.
Uh, that wouldn't surprise me, especially being, that Khalil Mack is on that team, so they might get some intel from a Khalil Mack. Who knows how much they would get from him, but that wouldn't surprise me. They've had dealings in the past, obviously, right?
Hmm.
They could want that. What a lot of people consider to be a franchise quarterback in Derek Carr, they'd want to get that back, being that they don't have any draft picks in the first round, right? So that would be a major win for the Bears, and Derek Carr would start, and they would have a shot, much more of a shot than what they do with Trubisky.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a quarterback league. Quarterbacks, they want quarterbacks and defensive ends and left tackles. Those are sure picks. Top 10 picks almost every year. And then it's the NFL, so not for long, right? So it's a gamble, right? That's what I was just saying a little while ago. We don't know that. We could go and get a bigger name, right? We could get to the Isaiah Thomas kid, right, out of Clemson, and that everybody wants, right? And he could flop, or he could be the next Ray Lewis. That's the gamble. So, I can see that Derek Carr getting traded to the Bears would be, if Tom Brady came to the Raiders, would be something that I think that John Gruden and Mike Mayock and Mark Davis would sign off on. Derek Carr, man, I love Derek Carr. I got the fat head right here next to me. I bought his jersey in 2014, but it goes back to winning. And the naysayers, That's all they've really been able to say, right? Is that we're not winning at first. We're not winning, but you could argue, well, he throws more touchdowns than interceptions. Got to build a team. All those things are not just excuses; they're facts. But it goes down to winning. Mark Davis wants to win in Vegas. John Gruden wants to win in Vegas. So if they feel like they can get out of Carr's contract, land Tom Brady, and maybe get a second and a third somehow from the Bears too, they'll take that. And then I wouldn't. I'm sorry, Raider Nation, but I wouldn't be bothered if Brady played for the Las Vegas Raiders. Man, I mean, it's something that the Raiders have done for a long time. Take old quarterbacks. Sometimes it didn't work. Sometimes it did. But Blanda, it worked out with him. It worked out with Gannon. Gannon was a journeyman. Of course, Brady's not a journeyman, but
Yeah.
Gannon was older when he came to the team.
Not as old as Brady, though. Brady is old.
Yeah, but Brady is a champion.
Yeah, but what if your body can't do what your mind wants it to do anymore?
Then we're screwed, right? If we sign Brady and he just can't physically do it, and we traded Carr, we're screwed.
Yes.
But that's the nature of the beast.
And I don't really have a problem with them bringing in a replacement to Carr or a younger quarterback to be groomed under Carr. I have no problem with that at all. I don't want to put all of our eggs in the basket of a 43-year-old quarterback, though.
Well, we do have a first round pick, right? 2 of them. And so if we got a third, and a second for Carr, you might see us move up with one of those first round picks. And they might want to get a quarterback, Burrow maybe, right? The Falcons right there entertaining offers, right? I mean, Mike Mayock's all over that. What if Derek Carr ended up in Atlanta?
Mm-hmm.
In a package. Atlanta's got to look at Derek Carr and say, "Man, I think we can get him to win on this team." They were just in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago.
I would love to have Burrow. There's just no realistic chance that we would actually get him.
I mean, what if the Raiders offered Derek Carr a first round pick?
To the Bengals?
Or the Bengals, yes, the Bengals, not the Falcons, the Bengals. Then you're in business. You have some, I guess, cachet, right? I mean, you have some options. It's something to put on the table if you're the Raiders. You have a quarterback that can play in the NFL, can throw for 4,000 yards, and you have 2 first round picks, one of which you'd be willing to let go with maybe like a conditional pick or something.
I would actually be willing to seriously consider a trade like that. Carr in a first for Burrow? Yeah.
Burrow, he looked good, right? Running around that field. He's coming out of a pro offense. He looks like he's a cerebral type quarterback. That's Gruden's favorite.
Yeah, he looked great.
He would have been in Gruden football camp on ESPN or whatever. He would have been a part of that. So you never know, right? You never know.
Yeah, that's definitely something I would probably go for a trade like that, though. The other team probably wouldn't. Bengals probably wouldn't, but I would. Derek Carr is my quarterback for as long as he is, but that doesn't mean that I can't see that there may be better options on the horizon.
Well, the greatness of the Raiders is in the future. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'd hate to see Carr go, though. It's going to be, like I said, I got the fat head here. It's going to be hard to watch him play for another team. Might have to take that fat head down.
Yeah, and I've got my autographed picture of him here hanging on my wall that I sleep under every night.
Do you pray to it?
No. No, that would be asking for it, especially with his belief in God. That would mean like double lightning strikes for me.
Spontaneous combustion.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that surprised me about our episode last week, in episode number 2, when we were talking about having a new leaf turned for the Raiders, was how we were kind of fangirls about Mark Davis, and who is universally derided by Raiders fans as this horrible person. And both of us kind of stood up for him. And believe it or not, all the feedback I've gotten from that episode has all been positive as well. Have you run into any feedback from it?
No, they're not talking to me. Just you.
Just me?
No, I mean, it's good. That's good, because Mark Davis deserves some good credit. Give credit where credit's due. Eagle Eye Ben, right, on RaiderRamble.com, man, very articulate. The way he wrote that, I like the way he put that out there. Very good read. I wish I could say things as well as he says them, but I mean, he's right. Mark Davis is, we've had to overcome all the things that Al did to the league to get under their skin, and Mark Davis is doing it. And now they don't want to see the Raiders fail, that's for sure. So yeah, hopefully the referees back off a little bit, Maybe we start getting those holy roller calls again. We need a little bit of help. It's always us versus the zebras every week. You know what I mean? Don't worry about if you're a fan. Don't worry about who the other team is. Find out who the referees are. Then you'll know if you can win or not. You know what I mean? So hopefully we can get away from that. The NFL is like, hey, look, let them play. You got to let them play. We need Vegas to succeed. That would be nice. That would be great. I think we would do well with a little bit of help.
Yeah, and we will definitely get up that link for that article from RaiderRamble.com, written by Eagle Eye. We'll get that back up on our Twitter page so you guys can check that out if you didn't have a chance to read it by this time. It's a really good little read. And the thing is, it wasn't planned. I had no idea that he was talking about doing that as a topic, and he had no idea that we had just done a podcast with it. It just so happened to, within a couple of days of each other, go well together. And so one of these things that we were talking about, the league's unwillingness to work with Al Davis and those whose lives he touched, is very well deserved Tom Flores. He has been overlooked and overlooked and overlooked. He belongs in the Hall of Fame. I don't want to say the NFL refuses to put him in, because technically it's not the NFL that does the voting. But the Hall of Fame committee continues to refuse to put him in. And what happened is there's now a pair of congressmen that introduced a resolution to get Tom Flores into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now, I don't think anybody expects it to go anywhere, but it is kind of cool that there's actually some politicians that are wanting to get involved enough in this. They see this injustice and they see something can be done about it. They're doing the most they can with their very limited power. But it's just really cool to see that there's actually two congressmen that are willing to stick their necks out and say, hey, this guy, he belongs there. He belongs in the hall.
It's a shame that he's not in. And I bet it has to do with something. It has to have something to do with the fact that he won a championship in Oakland and he won a championship in LA, right? I mean, it was right then and there at the time that Al Davis was doing his last act of defiance, I guess, I guess you could say. And he was throwing on the NFL the big middle finger, Al Davis was. And so Tom Flores is suffering from that, I think that he really is, and then of course, he didn't really have a Hall of Fame roster like Madden did, you know what I mean? So I don't know, maybe he just didn't have enough show spunk. He had Marcus Allen, right? And Plunkett, but Plunkett is another one that's not in the Hall of Fame. Lester Hayes was on that team. He's not in the Hall of Fame. Matt Millen, I don't know if he's in the Hall of Fame or not, but Matt Millen was on that team. Howie Long made it. I don't know. I mean, it seems like they just do not want to elevate the Raider mystique any more than it already is. And hopefully Mark Davis, him repairing the relationship with the NFL through the next decade or whatever, really solves all that. But before Tom dies, don't, because, Ken Stabler, right, he apparently, right, listening to the LOD interview, apparently, right, he had somebody that was with him. Kenny Stabler had somebody plant, or not that he had somebody planted, but somebody that was with Stabler planted cocaine in a reporter's car or whatever, right? And so that led to Kenny getting blackballed until after he died, and they finally let him in. So what is it, that with Tom Flores, hopefully he doesn't die before they put him in, so I don't know. I mean, it's sad. It's sad, but the Raiders those guys should be in there that I just mentioned. Flores, Plunkett, who else? Hayes, I can't believe they're not in there.
Yeah. Well, according to Kendra Moya Stabler, Kenny's daughter, the cocaine and drug story is true. And that is why Ken himself was blackballed from the Hall of Fame for the rest of his life. It wasn't it wasn't the Raiders thing.
But then like stop with the report. Just like stop with all that. Then stop with the reporters. I kind of get what I kind of get. I shouldn't be saying that, right? Because I'm in media or whatever, right? But why are they the only ones voting? At some point, right? Shouldn't you get a committee of players, Hall of Fame players, that can go back and say, "Man, I played against this guy. This dude definitely in," and then get them in. That way, you get a hand up in the votes coming from your peers, and not from somebody that could be upset at you because like Marshawn Lynch, I'm just here for the interview or whatever. I'm just here to whatever. He didn't like the media either. Does he deserve not to get in the NFL because he didn't cater to the media? No, or the Hall of Fame. He should be in the Hall of Fame too in the future. And so the the media might this too. I don't know. I don't think they understand what it takes to be a football player. Sometimes, they just want to cover, and if you make them mad or somehow screw them over, they blackball you. But maybe they need a committee of players to get some of these players in that deserve to be in, and these coaches as well.
Yeah, and that's what this centennial class was supposed to have done this year, to clear out some of the backlog of deserving
Yeah, but is that players
members.
choosing?
Well, I'm just saying that's supposed to be one of the things that the centennial class cleared was this backlog of people that deserve to get in, but just hadn't been able to. The problem is now that they've cleared this little backlog, they're realizing there's a heck of a lot more backlog left.
Then they need to expand how many people they bring in. Every year. I mean, I don't know. They're doing something wrong though, and then it didn't get fixed. It didn't get fixed for the Raiders, that's for sure. But then again, it's us against the NFL. That's the way they want to do it. So it's going to be like that forever. It seems like. Hopefully not. MD, do your thing. Keep doing your thing. Well, I'm depressed now.
Why don't you go on to transactions?
All right, transactions. Hey, we signed a linebacker. We already had him though. He was on the practice squad, so no big deal. Quentin Poling.
Yeah, practice squad last year.
You know who is funny? I saw Ben Heaney in the XFL game with New York. Speaking of like practice squad players, like the NFL could use a minor league where those practice squad players and ex players can thrive. And we could get a look at Quentin Poling because he only had that game and special teams or whatever. Like I don't even remember this guy. Who the hell is this guy?
He was a practice squad player through most of the year, and I believe he did get into the active roster one game where he worked special teams.
He's not perfect. I'll tell you that. I don't think he's even Will Compton. I'm not thrilled. It's just like they're doing what they have to do to keep their practice squad signed, I guess.
Well, he's definitely not the linebacker of the future I know that we are clamoring for. Hopefully, he'll be able to bring something to the plate.
Now we did extend Jalen Richard.
Yes, we did. We extended Jalen Richard, which was good. We needed to get either Richard or Washington extended. So Richard was the first one to get the contract back to them. So guess who they're keeping?
Well, I know we've talked about this, in the past. I think it's a great signing because he can play special teams. That's key, right? I know you're not necessarily happy or trust him when he's returning punts and kicks, but at the same time, even though Renfro can do it, Renfro did get his ribs broke, and punctured lungs, so we won't want him doing it. You know what I mean? That Tim Brown got hurt in his second year returning kicks, right? So, we need a player like Richard to come in and return kicks, and like we talked about in previous episodes, he was in there in the 2 minute drills, the 2 minute drives, man, because he knows Carr, he knows where Carr wants him, all that. So it's a solid signing. I'm happy with that signing. I am. And he's one of the few remaining McKenzie, you know, pickups. I mean, what a story. You talk about Josh Jacobs having a great story. So does Rashard. Rashard has a great story. Undrafted, walk on, invited to camp, made it. Now he's getting his contract extended. For John Gruden, he survived a regime change. That is rare in the NFL. So especially being undrafted.
Yeah. And Eric Harris has a great backstory as well.
Right.
We have
Yeah,
a
I
lot
love
of
that how he
players.
was working out of the NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a lot of players that have overcome quite a bit of adversity to make it to where they are, and it's not just a flat tire that they've fought through. They've fought through some serious stuff.
Well, that's what Gruden likes. He likes those Gruden grinder type players. He doesn't. Nothing's easy in the NFL, right? Gruden knows that. He knows that nothing's easy. So you need people that are willing to fight through hell to come and play in the NFL on your team in order to win a Super Bowl. Because it's not always about that one elite player. It's most of the times it's about a great team full of hardworking people, and that's what they're doing when you can tell that they're assembling a roster full of hard-working players, smart players too. You don't hear a bunch of stupid shit coming out of the press conferences. There's a well-spoken gentleman, trying to survive with their families, give back to their families, give back to their communities. That's the Gruden way. Think about it. Tim Brown, Jerry Rice, those are the type of players that Gruden's looking for. A Rich Gannon, consummate professionals, people that are going to come in every day at the same time Gruden comes in. That's what he wants because he wants to talk about football. You only get so much time to practice, right? So you got to be able in the meeting rooms, understanding football. That way, when Gruden doesn't have to explain to you the basics. That's what he has his coaching staff for. That you're smart enough to pick up on what the coaching staff is teaching you, and then in the meetings, you know everybody's knocking on wood because we're
Hmm.
all on the same page. We're all with Gruden.
Right.
That's what I mean. I'm stoked. I'm ready. I'm ready. But XFL, good, cool. I like it. I like seeing all the X Raiders in there. But come on with Raider football this year. Let's see it.
Yeah, I saw Saeed Blacknall yesterday. I think he played for the LA team.
That's cool. Marquette King's back in there. Tressman was calling plays. McGloin, I like seeing McGloin, man. I was hoping, in 2016 that he would step in and take us at least to one playoff victory because I was at that game in Houston. That would have been awesome. It just didn't work out, but I'm happy to see him, in the XFL balling out. Heaney was in there too, as I mentioned earlier. He was in there. It was nice to see him.
I saw Connor Cook holding the clipboard on the sidelines. So it's a familiar position I'm used to seeing him in.
He's great at that. Hey, man, can you believe we could have had Dak Prescott, right? Like Reggie moved up to get Cook, right? Thinking it would become draft capital later, or he would become draft capital, but he missed on Prescott, which would have been draft capital, if not a starting quarterback, for us. That would have been the fire under Carr's ass.
Yeah, that's what he could have used.
Hindsight's 2020.
Let's see, what else have the Raiders been up to lately? They issued a couple press releases. They have now formally announced the hiring of Rod Marinelli as the defensive line coach.
The Raider Nation was in an uproar about the Buckner firing, right? Oh man, you're bringing in this old guy, you this and that. But looking at this article, I mean, Marinelli is a smart choice. In his 7 seasons with the Cowboys, he helped the club capture 3 NFC East titles. We need that. We need that kind of coach on defense. A lot of people were saying, why would you bring that in? That's why. This guy was coaching well. That Cowboys defense, like I think 2 years ago with Van Der Esch in the middle, man, they were tough. They were looking tough.
Yeah, I wanted us to get Van Der Esch.
So, I mean, I'm excited when I read this article. Of course, it comes from the Raiders.com. So, of course, they're going to hype it up a little bit. But, I mean, looking at these numbers, he's good. He's good. Ninth in the NFL, an overall yardage from 13th, the pass defense from 13th to 10th. in 2019, just allowing 223 yards on passing a game. Like we were getting torched. If we could just get that, if we could just get that, we would have won that Houston game. We would have won that Denver game. We might have not get blown out in the second quarter versus the Vikings. So I'm looking at it like, man, I wish we could have kept Buckner, but it looks like we got a good replacement overall for the defense. Hopefully Gunther turns it around. But at the same time, I think we're poised to have a good defense, and hopefully they work well together. Maybe Gruden's bringing in Marinelli to kind of polish Gunther's style or his approach or his defense even a little bit. Give him some of that knowledge that he has. Because Gunther, like you were saying, he was always middle of the pack. There were a couple of years when the Bengals were playing tough on defense. That's when Burfict was running the middle. That's when they knocked out AB. But I mean that's the kind of defense. If we could just get that kind of defense, we're in good shape. And or the Cowboys defense. So I'm excited about that. Reading this article has made me a little happier about the whole Brinson Buckner fire. Because he was inspiring. Watching him be able to connect with the players, and then watching the defensive line turn around and go from like 13 to 30 plus sacks. That was good coaching skills. But you see a game plan here. You see Gruden with the game plan because as Raider fans, we're tired of losing. The defense just could not stop anybody. So we don't want, a lot of times we want coaches fired as a fan base, but MD's getting away from that, so now going into our third year, we're in position to either to have Gunther excel or have Gunther replaced. And this article shows that Gruden, is making smart moves in my mind.
Yeah, and I'm still bitter about the Buckner thing. I love the guy. But I am happy to see that he has settled in back at his home with the Cardinals. And I do wish him well, except for when they play us. But I think they've got themselves a really good coach. I think once he was gone, they realized it, and they are probably very grateful to get him back.
Because he was coaching that Cardinals line pretty well too.
Yeah, he went Cardinals, Tampa Bay, then us, and then back to Cardinals, I think. And it made quite a drastic difference every place he went.
Yeah, he's a good coach. He is a good coach. He just doesn't have that kind of experience that Marinelli has. So he, unfortunately, he was the one that was let go.
Yeah. C'est la vie, not for long. The Raiders also announced the hiring of Austin King as the offensive quality control coach. Nobody really knows what that means, but
Nope.
he is the offensive quality control coach. That was the type of position that I wanted them to put Marinelli into. Make it a, defensive quality control coach or something. Something that they just invented for him to sit in until they decided to pull Gunther. But of course, they went with taking Buckner instead. I have no idea who Austin King is.
I'm just curious though if the position is quality control. So that would be what like the guy that watches the players a little more closely, or does he deal with the scheme? Like this your scheme is like second half developments. Is that what he's about? Somebody that's watching every play, like finding where the holes are. I don't know what that hell that is, but we do need some quality control on the offense. There was a lot of drop passes, I don't know if he has anything to do with that, but and then second half adjustments, stuff like that. I would think that that's maybe what he was about.
Yeah, and that's a good question. That might be something that we need to research and find out for an upcoming episode. And that leaves us with one more press release to cover. The Las Vegas Raiders, they made a 6-figure pledge toward eliminating the school meal debt throughout the entire state of Nevada. That is pretty cool, working with the community that you're going into.
Yeah. I mean, the Raiders have always been about giving back to the community, And that's as you heard with the mob boss interview, it's spilled over into the Raider Nation. So they're leading the way. They're leading the way, and the state of Nevada gave them so much money, gave the Raiders so much money to move there. They almost have to give back, So it's good to see them doing that. They're not just saying, "Yeah, give us money, we'll bring our team over there. Give us money so we can get over there, and then once we get over there, man, we're going to get that money back and we're going to bring more money in. And then our players are going to be at y'all schools, at y'all's charity events, and we're going to be raising as much as we can." I think that's awesome, man. I love that. I love the Raiders doing that.
Yeah, and they were actually doing stuff like that for the last few years.
Yeah, they've had boots on the ground in Vegas for a while.
Yeah, ever since the move was announced, they have been working charity work, working with the community, contributing in many different ways. And I think we're only going to see that go up higher and higher.
Well, the Raiders, though, that's what we were talking about. They're not a big corporation. They're homegrown, family owned and operated. So they're always going to give back. The money that the state of Nevada spent on the Raiders is coming back. If not twofold, hopefully threefold. You know, because man, it's just $1 billion industry, so the money's coming in. Especially if the Raiders can start winning, it's over. That stadium will be paid for in 10 years. And it'll be pure profit for the state of Nevada, I would think.
Yeah, the stadium, they also announced a gaming partnership with this new stadium. The MGM Resorts has been named an official gaming partner of the Las Vegas Raiders, and they are a founding partner of Allegiant Stadium.
Yeah, I mean that's I've started buying tickets from Allegiant Stadium or to Allegiant Stadium from Allegiant Airlines. So I sure I will be at MGM Resorts as well. I want to make sure that I do my part as a member of the Raider Nation to back these companies that are backing the Raiders, that are affiliated with the Raiders. That's it shows that the Raiders have that kind of power, that with their fan base, that it shows that the Raider Nation is definitely has the Raiders back. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. The resorts, I was reading a little bit on there. They got all kinds of stuff in there. They're gonna do the pregame and postgame stuff. So I would imagine eventually there'll be player signings there, stuff like that. I would. I mean, I'm damn sure gonna go to MGM.
Yeah, definitely. There's always something small that a fan can do. I think now we should move on to what is maybe my favorite new segment that we're going to cover. And it's a little bit of debate on the name. You guys can let us know what you prefer. I'm just calling it MVP, most valuable person on or off the field. Homer, on the other hand, believes it should be called Heidi's Heroes.
Yes, it's perfect. So simple, so cheesy. It's perfect. It's perfect.
So let us know if you like the cheese or if you want to go with a little bit more formal name for the MVP. So
The cheese of the wine.
you can tell what would make him happy.
Man, Heidi's Heroes. That's great, man. It was so on the in the moment kind of thing, Oh, yeah.
I do have the sense of humor that could probably pull it off. I might not always sound funny, but
Oh, we could come up with the theme song and all that.
I'm pretty quiet, but I do have a pretty vicious sense of humor. Anyways, our first MVP, my first hero, we decided that we were going to give it to Josh Jacobs. Josh grew up in a lot of poverty, and he even lived with his dad in a car for a time. He grew up in environments so rough that he was used to sleeping on the ground so much that his first year in college, when he had a bed to sleep on, he still slept on the floor because it was just more comfortable for him. If that tells you anything about where he was eating, sleeping, and living, before he made it off the streets and into school. He never forgot that. He did hold out a little bit on his contract, but I didn't have a problem with that because he was holding out to make sure his family would be provided for. It wasn't a matter of I'm greedy, I want more, I want more, I want more. It was I want to make sure my family's okay. That's why I want to hold out for the best possible option. So for once, I actually totally understood it and was totally cool with it. And it's no surprise that for a player that something like that was so important would do something like what he did a few weeks ago at the end of the year. What Josh did was he took the money from his first year in the league and he bought his father a new house just as a gift. It blows me away. I mean, yeah, first round draft picks make a lot of money, but that's a lot of money to spend. And that is pretty amazing how good of a young man he's become. Pretty amazing that his father was able to raise him so well. He's definitely my MVP this week. We can even call him one of my heroes.
Yeah, kudos to Josh Jacobs' father. Kudos to all the dads out there struggling to provide for their children. You know, you mentioned Josh Jacobs holding out, and as a fan, I was upset about it at first because we had just got done dealing with the Mac deal. But so yeah, there's players out there that know that they have the talent to demand the money that they want, and then there's players out there that have that talent but want to get that money so that they can do something for their family. You know, and a lot of these players come out of poverty, so they want to. That I shouldn't be judging them. As Randy Hansen said, I will never hold a player. I'll never hold it against a player for him trying to get as much money as possible. And I should have looked at it like that because what he did was special. Not only on the field but off the field. And we talked about charity and giving back, but he was able to bring his family up. He didn't forget about his family. He brought them up, brought them with him. And so, to me as a fan, I'm wish I would have never said anything negative about it. I wish I would have just let it play out. But kudos to Josh Jacobs and his father for sticking together and coming out of poverty like that. I mean, that's special. That's special. It's hard living in poverty. It's real hard. But I love hearing good stories like that. Feel good stories. I'm glad he's a Raider. I usually say don't buy any jersey except for the Raider Legends, but there's a couple on this roster I want, and Josh Jacobs is one of them. He's a good person, and I love what he did for his father.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about what he's able to do in the next years while he is still a Raider. Well, Homer, I think it's time we wrap this up.
Already?
Already. I know, time flies.
Yes, it does.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the Only Nation podcast. We'll be coming out with around one episode a week in the off season. We might have some more interview episodes that we'll throw in there. And of course, if there's some really big breaking news, we might hop on and chat for a few minutes. But otherwise, look for us about once a week. Tell us what you'd like to hear on the show. We would love to have any ideas that you have, any shout outs that you want to give. Tell us what you'd like to hear. And I think that we're desperate enough to the point of having you contact us by resorting to a little bit of bribery. How about everyone who contacts us, either by phone, Twitter message, Facebook email, Instagram message, whatever, everyone who contacts us in that manner in the next week is going to be put in a drawing for a Little Raiders prize pack. So, write us, call us, text us, Instagram us, whatever. Get a hold of us. Give us a show suggestion or just say, hey, I enjoyed what you did. You do that. We'll put all your names in a basket and we will draw someone out and send you a Raiders prize pack. How's that sound, Homer?
It sounds great. We're giving back, trying to get y'all involved, and we're going to give back, Just it's the Raider way. So make sure you do contact us, guys. We want to get y'all involved. It's fun interacting with people. You know that. That's why you're on social media. So get to our social media accounts. Interact with us, man. Talk some Raiders with us. Call. Leave some voicemails. We could play those during the end of the broadcast or the podcast or whatever, and get involved. Get your voice out there. This podcast, The Only Nation podcast is for the only nation. So get involved, Raider Nation. Get involved. Okay, so until next time, everyone, go Raiders.
Go Raiders.